Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Battle Cry, the only show on Indian television that gets you up close with India's weapons, India's warfighters, and how this country defends itself. In this latest episode, viewer, the Indian Navy has just commissioned into service a piece of weaponry, an aircraft that is described as something that gives Chinese submarine commanders their worst nightmare. They're called Romeos, and when one of these takes off, it usually means that a submarine commander is about to have a really bad day, or at least a really anxious day. These are the MH-60R Seahawk helicopters, 6 of which have been commissioned into service by the Indian Navy, with 18 more on their way. The first big upgrade to the Indian Navy in its rotorcraft anti-submarine force. Take a look at this report. Hostile submarines in the Indian Ocean, looking to probe India's maritime domain for years and encircle the subcontinent. Your work just got a whole lot more dangerous. Say hello to the Indian Navy's newest submarine hunters, the American-built MH-60R Seahawk helicopters that go by the moniker Romeo. With 6 delivered and 18 more to arrive in batches, these formidable naval helicopters enter formal service today as part of a brand new squadron. The INAS 334, the new home to the Indian Navy's newest teeth against the quietest, most insidious threat in the Indian Ocean.
The commissioning of the advanced MH-60 Romeo helicopters by the Indian Navy marks the beginning of a new era of collaboration and partnership between the United States Navy, the Indian Navy, and Lockheed Martin. We congratulate the Indian Navy on the historic milestone, as well as the exemplary courage that they have shown in safeguarding the Indian seas.
The helicopters, which began deliveries in July 2022, have already begun operations from their new home base in Kochi, Kerala, deployed on Indian Navy ships and aircraft carriers for missions they've been designed for, as a harmful deterrent to misadventures in the Indian Navy's area of responsibility, the entire Indian Ocean.
As far as Bharatiya Nausena is concerned, we have an unequivocal commitment to Bharat, that is of protecting, preserving, promoting and pursuing our national interests in the maritime domain. So with their cutting-edge sensors and multi-mission capabilities, the MH-60Rs will augment our maritime surveillance and anti-submarine warfare capabilities. In addition to flying a multitude of naval operations, these Seahawks can also undertake humanitarian missions such as search and rescue and disaster relief.
The Indian Navy's version of the MH-60 Romeo comes formidably armed for all manner of targets. For submarine targets, the Indian Romeos carry Mark 54 torpedoes. For ship targets, the helicopters will soon be fitted with Kongsberg naval strike missiles and then possibly an Indian anti-ship missile. The helicopters also carry a load of AGM-114 Hellfire precision strike missiles for a variety of surface targets. And finally, the APKWS laser-guided rocket system capable of pulverizing surface targets. The new helicopters fill an expanding gap in capability. The Indian Navy has not only been pressured by low submarine numbers, its anti-submarine warfare seeking helicopters have hit the end of their life and have been badly in need of replacing. With 6 now and a final fleet of 24 Romeos over the next few years, the Indian Navy finally has a no-nonsense arsenal capable of giving Chinese submarines and other threats serious second thoughts. Bureau Report, India Today. And could there really be a better way to understand what the Romeo helicopters really mean, how they will do their job, than to speak to a former Sea King pilot who has conducted anti-submarine warfare missions in helicopters that these Romeos are actually replacing, and a veteran submariner whose job it has been to stay as silent as possible beneath the waves and evade precisely this kind of capability. Welcoming onto Battle Cry today, Commodore Anil Jaisingh is a veteran submariner. He's also part of the India Maritime Foundation. Captain P. Rajkumar is a former Sea King pilot. He's an award-winning pilot who has conducted amazing rescue missions. He's been decorated with the Shaurya Chakra for his feats out at sea during a cyclone. He has records for the number of people he's rescued during the 2018 Kerala floods, and he is someone who knows a thing or two about anti-submarine warfare as well. Captain Rajkumar, I will start with you because we are talking about helicopters. The Sea Kings that you've flown for a large part of your career, your last flight before you hung up your flying boots was also in a Sea King, is the precise kind of aircraft that will be replaced by these brand new Romeos. Now, we've already told our viewers what these aircraft are really about, but I wanted to get the both of you to talk about your experiences. Tell us precisely, sir, what would this helicopter do? If you're sitting in the cockpit of a Romeo hunting for a submarine, what is that like and what exactly will you be doing?
Oh, Shiv, you took the words out of my mouth. This aircraft can create magic, trust me. What, 40 years of naval aviation, the airborne ASW element that we all belong to, the erstwhile Sea King and the Kamau's, could not even think of achieving this. The Romeos is very much capable of achieving, thanks to the phenomenal, technological upgrades and the capabilities that it brings to the cockpit. Don't ever be fooled by its size. It may look small compared to the Sea Kings that you have seen, but this is really a helicopter worth its every weight in gold. It packs a punch unlike any other helicopter that you have seen in the Navy. Probably, without any doubt, I can tell you, Shiv, the most advanced ASW helicopter as we speak, which the world has seen. This has got phenomenal potential to fill in the gaps which the 42 Bravos, the erstwhile flying frigate, as it's formally called, leaves a big vacuum in the Indian Navy. This aircraft is more than capable of filling those.
Imagine you're sitting in the cockpit of a Romeo right now. Imagine you're sitting in the cockpit of a Romeo right now. You've been sent out, to detect, a suspicious submarine at sea. Just take us through what that experience will be like. What all will you be doing?
Oh, Shiva, you're tempting me so much. I wish I was back in the cockpit. I really miss those days. Yes. Okay, let me tell you. ASW mission, so to speak, it's never a mission all by yourself. It's always in the naval warfare, parlance that we talk about. It has got various segments. To cut the long story short, I'll just put it this way. When it comes to the helicopter phase of a combined anti-submarine exercise or anti-submarine warfare, that is the final deciding moment when you go into the kill or to make sure that submarine don't come to the harm's way as in the Navy fleet or any naval fleet.
Yes.
You take off, you have some certain intelligence as to where the probable area where the submarine or the enemy boat will be lurking around. You get airborne and depending on the tactical routing, you proceed to that area. And you would have already sanitized the air using your other sensors, namely the radar, as well as the electronic warfare suite, or in terms of ESM, the other electronic support measures that you have on board. And the helicopter that we're talking about, Romeo, the radar is so capable that it can easily detect a submarine when it comes to the periscope. So all that it requires is a small little one scan of the periscope of a submarine which is lurking in the sea. And that's it. And you get a lock on. And once you get a lock on, then you go ahead and prosecute the submarine with the set patterns that we have using the sensor fit of sonar or dipping sonar or the deployable sonar buoys. And then you get to the attack mode and make sure that the boat doesn't come anywhere near to harm the Navy fleet. Either it retreats or we blast it to smithereens.
Okay, incredible. So we've heard what that experience is going to be like. Now let's find out about, the guy who's going to try and evade Captain Rajkumar, who's hovering right above the water in his Romeo. And Commodore Jai Singh has spent a large part of his career doing that, I'm sure, or at least training to do that. Commodore Jai Singh, you're in a submarine right now, and one of these Romeos has taken off. What's it going to be like inside the submarine, and how are you going to, let that entire scenario unfold, sir?
Well, firstly, let me tell the seeking pilot that I love his sense of optimism. But nevertheless, to be very honest with you, if there's one thing a submarine commander really is, I wouldn't say fears, but he's apprehensive about, is the presence of an anti-submarine warfare helicopter on top. Because that is something we do not, if we are at a particular depth or below, we wouldn't know he's there. Whereas they have the capacity, the helicopters, of lowering a sonar into the water and it's in passive mode. There is no way that the submarine would know that there's a helicopter there who's lowered his sonar into the water. So that is one thing that submarine commanding officers have to be wary of. However, the helicopter is also somewhat limited in its ability to do whatever it can. It can detect a submarine, yes, but it can do very little after that to prosecute the submarine. In terms of the kind of weaponry it carries, it can damage the submarine, but I'm not sure it can sink a submarine. But that is where the role of a helicopter comes in. Then the helicopter directs the surface forces to that position of the submarine, and they carry out a vectored attack and really can put a lot of pressure on a submarine if there's a concentration of anti-submarine forces on top.
Yeah. Of
course, as the technology of helicopters has improved, so has submarine technology improved. So I don't think there were any commanding officer today in a probable area where he expects the enemy to be or an enemy helicopter to be is going to come up to periscope depth at all.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be suicidal. So no submarine commanding officer is going to do that. Even if he does come up and suppose he does get detected, he is a sitting duck. So that's number one. Secondly, now with the advancement in electronics, the advantage that the helicopter had, that the submarine had no idea he's on top or hovering on top and lowered his sonar, that is gone. Because modern submarine sonars can pick up the wash of the rotor on the surface of the sea. That means the disturbance of the waves can be picked up by a submarine sonar. So you would come to know that there's a helicopter which is hovering on top. You may not come to know much in advance, but certainly you'll be suspicious that there is a helicopter on top. So, it works both ways. While anti-submarine warfare technologies develop, so do submarine technologies develop. Submarines have become quieter, more silent, more endurance, more range, less handicapped by, other constraints. So from that perspective, the cat and mouse game will continue at sea. Insofar as the induction of the Romeo is concerned, I think it's going to be quite a game changer as far as the Indian Navy's anti-submarine warfare capability goes. Our Seekings did yeoman service for the Navy. They were really the workhorses of the fleet. They were called the frigate.
Yeah.
But they had got on in years, and without adequate upgrades happening, there was a limitation as to how much they could do. The numbers were constrained, and that brings me to the Romeo as well. The Romeo also, at the moment, we're only getting 24. This is only going to fill an intermediate gap. We need many more. And a replacement for the Seeking has been on the cards since 2010, 2011. The aircraft are finally coming in 24. So I think we have a lot of catching up to do in terms of the numbers we need and the capability we need. But it's a fantastic start. Many of the ships were constrained so far with not having adequate helicopters embarked as an integral part of the fleet. If we are going to have two carrier battle groups with two aircraft carriers, we certainly need a lot more aircraft. Of this
you raise a very important point, Commodore Jai Singh. 24 of these helicopters have been contracted. There is a contest or a requirement for at least 120 more of a similar kind of capability. So we'll have to see how that particular thing plays out. But our viewers have been very excited about this conversation because a submariner and an anti-submarine warfare pilot going head to head, colleagues from the Navy. It's incredible and it's exciting because this is a world that is invisible to all of us, and we've only sort of broached it in Tom Clancy novels and things like that. So it's very exciting. So permit me to, revel in the boys with toys kind of vibe of this conversation. Captain Rajkumar, like Commodore Jai Singh just said, the cat and mouse has gotten much more interesting now. At one point of time, the submarine may have been clueless about the helicopter hovering above. Now the submarine knows when the helicopter is right above there. So you can't be doing doing your job without the guy down below knowing that you're there, sir.
Of course. I was speaking about the submarine coming to PD purely in jest. I'm just telling you the capability of the radar. I know for a fact that no submarine commanding officer will come to the PD. But notwithstanding the fact that, any search for a submarine is like looking for a needle in the haystack. The less said, the better. I mean, it's an understatement if I were to say that any helicopter pilot or any helicopter commander can claim that once he takes off in search for a submarine, is going to succeed. It is an extremely difficult, work. And it'll always remain a cat and mouse game. It is one of the classical naval warfare, till the cows come home. We'll continue to argue as to who has got the upper edge. Of course, it is all a question of numbers that you can, be in the air. The anti-ASW warfare is just not flown only by the helicopters. You also have fixed-wing aircraft up in the air. You also have this, like the commander rightly pointed out, you have the surface forces which will come in to help. So this helicopter will only help in one particular segment of it. Of course, the anti-submarine warfare is a much bigger, and a wider subject than what we can discuss in this interview.
Commodore Jai Singh, you called the MH-60 Romeos a game changer. We all agree that 24 is too small a number. This is only an intermediate step. Hopefully, more helicopters either of this type or a similar capability will join the forces very soon. But in that interim, given the aggressive manner in which China has been trying to deploy submarines in the Indian Ocean, how do these helicopters? I know that one small squadron of helicopters is only one incremental element of a much larger defense strategy. But considering that these are very highly capable helicopters which will be out at sea, how does it change that dynamic for China, sir?
We know that the Chinese are going to have a very potent nuclear submarine presence, perhaps in the Indian Ocean a few years from now. And their effort would be to contain the movement of the Indian surface forces. Therefore, the presence of this helicopter will make a lot of difference, because the moment you have a helicopter with this kind of capability, you're also to a certain extent putting the submarine on guard. They also will be a little careful about where they operate. They'll be careful about if they know the location of our surface forces or our surface fleet, they will be aware that, an area 200 miles around it can be effectively sanitized by these very, very potent and very, very capable helicopters. So it will to a certain extent constrain or contain the Chinese submarine commanding officer from doing whatever he thought he could do and get away with otherwise. There are certain, and now, as technology is progressing, it's not just about the helicopter and the ship it is on. We are getting into a networked environment, what we call network-centric warfare. So in a networked environment, it's not just the information that can be shared between a ship and the helicopter, its integral helicopter. It's about the complete fleet, which is probably dispersed over a 200-mile frontage, sharing information, through active data links, through real-time exchange of information, through multi-static sensors. So this helicopter, because of the range it can operate at ahead of the fleet or around, will be able to sanitize an area much larger than individual ships would be capable of doing it as part of a carrier battle group protection screen. So I think from that perspective, this helicopter in a contemporary maritime battle space environment would be very effective in definitely causing some consternation to the Chinese submarine commanding officers operating in the Indian Ocean.
No, that's very good to hear. That's very good to hear, because we know that this can't be this certainly can't be a cure for those challenges that the Navy is facing. But if it gives submarine commanders from the Chinese side some pause, it constrains them a little bit, then it has absolutely served its purpose. Captain Rajkumar, I'll end with you. I know how beloved the Sea Kings have been. I know how much you loved your Sea Kings. Given a chance, would you love to strap into a Romeo and get back to work, sir?
What a question, Chef. Give me the time I'll be there. I don't mind flying you as my co-pilot any day, any time. Call me. I'm there. But before we end, let me put in a word of caution. I mean, there is a euphoria today with the induction of the Seahawks into the Navy. Chef, the machines have changed, okay? Of course, with technology, machines have changed. The missions have changed to a large extent. The kind of... But unfortunately, the man has not changed. The human beings are still, tend to failures. That is where we need to have a lot of caution. So we need to really, really be careful that we protect the man and the machine so that no harm comes to their way. I mean, that's a watchword I would advise to the Indian Navy before we stop this interview.
Absolutely. I mean, I think you've, ended on a note that only a soldier could have ended it on, which is to take this very seriously. Celebrations are fine, but we should make sure that, everything is absolutely on track. The training never ends because things are dynamically changing. And we have full faith in the Indian Navy because the Indian Navy truly is one of the finest maritime forces in the world and represented here on Battlecry by two of their finest, Commodore Anil Jaisingh and Captain Rajkumar. What an honor and what fun to get a glimpse into that amazing secret world of yours. So I thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for you taking the time out and being here with us. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
And the big news of the week, it's almost like a battle cry impact because we had spoken about the delays in this project in our first episode of this latest season. India's 5th generation fighter aircraft project called AMCA has finally been cleared after many years of delay. This is India's futuristic stealth fighter aircraft concept that has now finally been cleared by India's Cabinet Committee on Security, providing thousands of crores towards the development of this fighter jet that will start populating frontline squadrons in the next decade. Many have been anxious about why there has been a delay in clearing this very, very important aviation project. And now the government has bitten the bullet and green signaled India's 5th generation fighter. Thanks very much for watching the latest episode of Battle Cry. Leave us comments on social media. We're always listening. And as we always say when we sign out, India's true potential and national security will only be realized when no human is sent into battle and no weapon needs to be fired. Thanks for watching.